It's the 20th day of December, 2015, and this is The Radical Agnostic, Tucson's greatest podcast, episode 41. My name is John. I'm the host. We got Mark, my co-host.
Hi.
Bryan Richter, the stowaway guest.
Howdy.
And what did I call you?
The resident skeptic, right?
The resident skeptic. The co.
Is that what he called you last week?
I think it is.
But I like
I think
the way
it was the resident skeptic.
the co.
I'll be the
stowaway
resident
guest,
evil.
Eddie West. All right.
Yeah, I'm like a barnacle, dude. Other guests are gonna just cling to me, and they're like, if he can fucking do it, we'll all do it. It'll be anarchy.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like a 10-man free for all.
I know.
Eventually,
Everyone's bringing their own microphones.
that'll be your niche, though.
Yeah.
Just a bunch of dudes walking around the house like talking shit on their own microphone.
Yeah. Not listening to each other.
You're
4
gonna
different conversations.
You're going to have to get a bigger apartment.
Yeah. We got a great show for you today. Like I said, episode 41. Coming up on Christmas. You hear those jingle bells ringing?
That's offensive.
I'm sorry.
I swear, I
I
almost threw something at your head.
Yeah.
I like
I didn't have
Kwanzaa. I celebrate Kwanzaa.
We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. The minor political scandal involving Bernie Sanders this week. The debate. We're going to talk about. We got an amazing anger management for you from the stowaway guest over here. And what else? Oh, we're going to talk about. Well, I have some questions about history and styles of government and which ones are better than others. So we could ramble about that a bit. And then we have our new segment, Commander in Beef, in which Mark will be given a political scenario. It's not really a segment. I always just say that when I think of a slightly funny phrase. But I'm going to give him a little bit of a challenge on his rational isolationism sort of idea. Give him a little scenario, see what he does with that.
Bomb them all.
Yeah. So
Build fences around the country and then bomb that fucking country.
but first, we have
Glass farming.
He's gonna play a Trump
the President
card.
Beef way.
Trump card.
He's gonna play a Trump card.
And then don't let any of the survivors to become refugees to come into your country.
Because Trump had said that part of his plan as president, foreign policy, is to kill the family members of terrorists. He said that, and it was kind of just one of those things he said, blah, blah, blah. But at the last debate last week, the moderator directly asked him in front of 15 million people, you said that you wanted to kill the family members of terrorists. And he just totally went with it, doubled down. He's like, yep, that's right. What, they get to kill us, but we don't get to kill them? Is some kind of simplistic comment like that? I couldn't believe when I was hearing killing. And Jeb Bush was like, what are you talking about? He goes, you can't do that. What are you talking? You're executing children now and the wives of terrorists? Is that really what you're advocating? And he was like, yeah.
You know what I thought of? I thought of the guy in Avatar that's like, we will fight terror with terror.
We had to destroy the village.
We already are.
We will blast a hole in their racial memory so deep. Like, all right, dude.
Yeah.
Settle down, man. What's he smoking?
We already are.
Stay off
doing
the
that.
Trump weed, man. Makes you aggro.
Bombs coming out of nowhere from invisible planes is pretty scary, I'd say. We've been doing that for a while.
You can hear them, though. You can hear them.
I don't. Can you see those drones when they're 80,000 feet up?
I didn't see you is different than you were invisible. Wonder Woman has an invisible plane.
Yes, you're right. It is not invisible, Eddie. That's correct.
I can tell this is going to be a good show, man. We're on the right fucking track anyway.
But first, curious megafauna. For those of you who don't know, megafauna are giant animals that...
in the grand tradition of any technical field that likes to use Latin, giving it a stupidly simple name, but it sounds so impressive.
Good.
Megafauna.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Big animal.
Yeah.
I was going to make a mama joke, but then I remembered that your mom listens, so I'm like, no mama jokes.
There's one of which is Titanoboa, the largest snake that ever existed, It was 47 feet long and 2,500 pounds.
Damn.
And
slither.
Yeah, big boy.
I saw a documentary on it. It was called Anaconda.
Yeah.
And where the one with Ice Cube?
That's right.
Nice.
Where when they're going there, they film the boat, and when they're leaving, they just reverse the film.
Yeah. So some examples are North American horses. Supposedly horses got here from Europe during recorded history, and so that's why when Cortez and them showed up in South America, in those islands or wherever they were, South America, southern Mexico, and they were riding horses and they had armor on. A lot of the indigenous people were just terrified. They outnumbered Cortez by 1,000 to 1. But they were terrified by men riding horses because they assumed that these were half horse, half man beings. And the armor, too, helped the illusion. And so that was really surprising for them. But anyway, there were North American horses for
Up in the
millions of
plains,
years.
though.
Yeah, up here, up north.
It's weird because I've read a lot of Lakota stories that are that talk about before we had horses.
Right.
So
there doesn't seem to be any memory in those people of horses before Europe.
So that they were, when you say megafauna, I always think of shit that's really big.
Yeah.
So were they bigger than normal horses?
These horses were pretty much normal horses, but they are considered megafauna because things that
they're
exist
big.
today are megafauna. Horses, elephants, stuff like that. So
right.
Yeah, these little guys were just kind of normal horses, so they're not that much fun.
Yeah, I just thought we might have been talking about like some huge like Tyranno horse.
Yeah.
This big ass.
We got Glyptodon. This is a cousin of the armadillo, except it weighed 1 ton.
You don't want to hit that thing on I-10, dude.
Yeah. The horrible armored thing waddling towards you. Ugh. Then there were mastodons. We all know about them, related to mammoths.
Great band.
The short-faced bear. This had these long, long legs, much longer than a grizzly bear's legs, and similar size. And they think that it helped it to chase things down, running at high speeds. We had a North American cheetah. A little bit shorter legs than today's cheetah, so they weren't as fast, but we had those big cats over here. That's pretty awesome. The dire wolf, I thought that was only in Game of Thrones, but it's a real thing. It's a big, larger than gray wolves.
Huge.
Yeah.
Well, because dire wolves were in Lord of the Rings, too.
Yeah, that's right. The ground sloth. Oh, that fucking sloth. Oh, that thing is horrible. It's, what was it? 10 feet tall and weighed an estimated 2,205 pounds. Megalonyx jeffersoni, because Thomas Jefferson found one of its claws, and he told those two explorer guys.
And for the rest of his life, Thomas
Lewis
Jefferson
and
would say,
Clark.
"Hey, baby, want to see my sloth?"
Lewis
claw?"
and Clark.
Meriwether Clark or whatever.
Meriwether Lewis.
He told Lewis and Clark he's like, when you go on your thing, look for I forgot what he thought it was. Like, he thought it was some kind of bear or a cheetah that this claw belonged to.
Because it was kind of curved. I could see where you like thinking about what a sloth's claws look like compared to a bear.
He told Lewis and Clark, look for a lion when you're crossing the continent. There's some huge frickin' lion, but it was a giant sloth. 10 feet tall. That thing would have just eaten a person, probably.
I've seen pictures of that.
Except for they're not carnivorous or
Yeah.
even not omnivorous.
Yeah, I think they... But I don't know if they know for sure about these guys, these extinct ones.
Well, I
saw
assume
one
if
at
they found teeth, then they probably know.
Did they hang out in trees too, or did they just...
No, they were on the
What
ground.
kind of fucking trees do these things
I
take
don't know,
down?
there's sequoias, there's, maybe there was megaflora.
Yeah, they're
Oh, that actually would be cool.
Yeah.
The sequoias, like the
Have you
sloths
ever been
evolved
out?
just to be in the giant redwood,
Have you ever been out to the sequoias? Either of you guys?
I don't like nature.
The sequoias are
You haven't been
very cool.
subjected to enough of it.
So
I said that about cocaine the first time I did it.
the giant beaver, Megalonyx, 125-pound beaver. The biggest ones today are 44 pounds.
Like throwing a hot dog down a hallway.
See, and I was going to say we couldn't have Arnie on this show,
Yeah.
and then Beef fills in for him right away, man.
We had camels in North America, but they didn't.
There's another mama joke right there. They're all over the place in this curious megafauna segment.
But North American ones aside, I did I strayed into, went down an internet hole and straight into Australia's extinct megafauna, and I found the thing that freaked me out the most of all was Sturton's thunderbird. Okay, it's the largest bird that ever lived. And let's see here.
Doesn't it have a huge, thick-ass beak?
Oh, the beak is like the size of my head. And it's
big, people. For those of you who don't know, John, that's very large.
It was 10 feet tall, and it weighed 1,000 pounds. And birds, you know, they don't weigh as much as they look usually. They
right,
because of the hollow bones.
But that's
and
a
stuff.
Land bird, so it probably had solid bones.
Yeah, it did not fly. This thing,
dude. If you've ever seen a hawk eat, ugh.
Wait, so is a pterodactyl a reptile or a bird? It's classified as a reptile.
It's a dinosaur.
Yeah, dinosaurs aren't classified as reptiles or birds.
Yeah,
right, but.
Birds technically are dinosaurs.
Birds and reptiles are related too.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but
the thinking is that that the dinosaurs became birds. So like, they all have the same root, but like when you say is it a dinosaur, is it a reptile or a bird? It's kind of like it's before both. It kind of turned into both.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's close enough to the birds to be a bird.
Well, it
considered.
flew in the air effectively.
Right, but in this regard, it's not like because if that's the biggest bird. I mean, I would think pterodactyls are bigger than that, but
they wouldn't classify it like
right.
that.
I wonder
they're saying the biggest like bird,
right? Like modern bird.
The biggest bird that is the word.
Well, this thing is just horrible though. This thunderbird. And like 1,000-pound bird, man, it just would have plucked your head right off this.
Imagine if you had your car parked under a tree that it was sitting in,
or finding an egg and frying it.
Yeah, I've had an ostrich egg.
Yeah,
it's good. Mostly because I will eat a dozen eggs at a time. So this is one egg.
Was it like a whole meal?
Well, no, it was multiple meals like this. It's fucking huge. It's full of yolk. Eggs is half the size of your head, and it's full of yolk. And if you think about eggs normally, like the shell takes up just mathematically, like you could pour a lot of eggs in an ostrich egg.
Yeah,
it is
for sure. Is that it? Brian's showing me a picture of the thunderbird, Sturton's, also known as Dromornis sturtoni. All right. Anyway, guys, so curious megafauna.
If we find a picture of it, maybe we'll put it in the show notes for this show.
Yeah, the show notes.
Well, I still maintain that you need an RSS feed.
All right. Politics. So,
speaking of bird shit,
let's just sum up what happened here. It's kind of complicated, but the Democratic Party, also known as the Democratic National Committee, has a database of voter information. It's got tens of millions of phone numbers and names. And it tells you how they voted in the past or how everyone's likely to vote. And every Democratic candidate gets access to that little database program. You get a little password, and then you go in, and then you can fiddle with the information for your own campaign and add details that are relevant to your campaign. So these Democratic voters are probably going to vote for Hillary. These are definitely going to, so don't bother calling them, stuff like that. And then you get to compile your own data, voters. And the different campaigns are not allowed to look at each other's data. There's a firewall. Now, the company that runs this software, this program, messed up, and the software has broken several times to where the firewall disappears, and you're able to just... Bernie's campaign can go to Martin O'Malley's campaign or Hillary's and look at all their fiddled with data on their voters. And that's apparently very important to the campaigns. And so the firewall went down, and pretty much what it looks like happened is a few of Bernie's staff people pretty much intentionally took the opportunity to look at Hillary's shit and possibly download it and keep some of it. No one's really clear on this. And I think, the Bernie's campaign was kind of saying that they weren't doing it maliciously. And the guy that did it said, I was trying to, it was a pretty weak excuse. He's like, I was trying to explore the software breakdown, and then...
Yeah, the logic he had used was that he knew that both campaigns there was a hole in it. So to judge how big the hole on his side was, since he's on that side, he went to look at how big the hole in Hillary's was.
Right. And So anyway, that guy got fired. Bernie fired that guy, and now he's suspended a couple more staffers. But what happened was the Democratic National Committee, headed by Debbie Wasserman Schultz, got really angry and said, Bernie, you broke the rules. Your guys broke the rules here, and we're taking your access from this whole database. All the stuff that he spent millions of dollars compiling, his information.
Well,
he no longer had access to that.
Until he could prove that any data that he had collected from that he no longer had, he had deleted, or,
right?
Whatever.
Which is kind of weird because you have to prove a negative there, and that's something the campaign manager was saying. He's like, I can't prove that we deleted something or that we don't have something.
Yeah, but step one is to bend over backwards, though. Like, you cheated, so step one is to go, well, what do you want to see then? Not, step one should not be, but I can't prove that, so I totes can't, because I definitely can't prove the negative, and please don't look at my computer.
Right.
Right, yeah.
Because if they were like, here's all of our computers, like, seriously, we this is a big fuck up. We did not mean, like, we shit canned that guy immediately. We had no part of this. This was not what we wanted. What else can we do for you? That'd be one thing. It's another thing if your first response is, well, we can't prove a negative.
Well, and what I don't understand about the whole thing is, so Clinton's getting, ridden roughshod about the whole emails with her Secretary of State stuff and having it at her private server or whatever. Yeah. So if she could do that, possibly, if that could even happen, I don't understand why Sanders wouldn't have his own backups of that fucking data too, that he would then still have access to.
Right. I don't know how that relates to Hillary, but the question...
Well, it relates because she did have a private server that she had all this shit on.
Yeah, but
that was not...
But it wasn't campaign
No, it was
stuff.
an email, sir. It was just an email.
It was just her email, yeah.
Still, you have... what the fuck is numbers and
right.
people's names?
Why isn't
That's less even than fucking emails.
I don't see... I don't
So
know.
what are you saying, Mark, that if you're not smart enough to have your shit backed up, then you're too dumb to play this game?
Kind of.
I'm starting to follow the train of thought, man.
It might not work like
41
that.
episodes.
You might not be permitted to download that information.
We don't.
Keep it.
And we don't know what the rules are. I mean, they got punished for breaking the rules over and above just, not everything has rules that say if you break our firewall, like, you get in even more trouble. So clearly the DNC has rules for how campaigns are supposed to be.
But the DNC has broken its own rules, and that's an important part, because in their contract it says if there's a problem with the firewall and people sneaking a peek, you have 10 days to show us that you didn't, or to make your case and all this. So there were rules in there, and that's probably...
Before it's shut off?
Yeah.
Before your access.
And so the DNC shut off his access. He filed a federal lawsuit that day, and then later that night they said, all right, tomorrow morning you can have the access back, and they gave him the access back the next day. So it's pretty much all over, kind of.
Let's cut to the chase. Where are we going with it?
So
we can read all that. I want to hear what John Berger thinks about what's going on.
Well, first of all, I had to check myself a little bit and say...
Before you wrecked yourself?
Yeah, and say that no, his staffers did break the rules. Now it's kind of an iffy thing because the firewall went down. And
is it Bernie Gate?
No.
Are they taking a page out of the New England Patriots playbook?
Yeah.
I mean, he's from that region.
I mean, and in the
seems
end,
to be a winning formula.
Well, and if you think one of the Patriots scandals was videotaping during, I think it was games or practice, like something that they could go to, but they couldn't videotape.
Basically.
And like that rule is kind of dumb. Like but it is you cheated if you did it. Like, and it's pretty clear cut. Like, even if the rule's kind of dumb, it's not like...
I already like where you're going with this.
So even if this rule is kind of dumb, where it's like, well, but your firewall split, blah blah, it doesn't matter. Clearly, you cheated. But your campaign cheated.
Yeah, but it's kind of like if the other team. It's like
if you cheat, you lose.
It's like this. It's like if the other team dropped their playbook in the Patriots locker room by mistake, and the guys picked it up and looked at it. Yeah, it's wrong to open that book. But it's a little different
really
than
wrong
stealing it.
But it's really... Yeah, but once you photocopy the book... Yeah. And you're saying dude downloaded it, right? Is what he said?
Nobody knows, but yeah, that's one of the accusations.
He did it. Can we just assume he did it? Let's for our
And if more people are being suspended... Because
what
did he do with it?
There's usually fire.
And what did he do with it?
He would be suspended just for looking at it at all.
He was just an IT guy. Right. So his intention was always to share it. It must have been.
Yeah. Probably.
So I'm betting. I'm sure he did share it with someone, and that's why they suspended people. So this isn't even just you sneak a quick
I had to
pick.
check myself because I was pissed off at the Democratic National Committee and Schultz, and I still am because answer me this: if she had found out that it was the other way around and that the firewall had failed and Hillary's people had sneaked a peek, or if maybe both of them had done it and Martin O'Malley did it too, except like he doesn't have anyone working for him, so he probably doesn't even know about this database.
He was smoking a cigar.
Yeah. I like the guy, but yeah. So would Wasserman Schultz have A, leaked it to the press, which she didn't have to, and B, cut off Hillary's campaign from the database?
Oh, okay.
Now,
No,
Debbie
she
Wasserman
wanted to
Schultz
live.
used to work for Hillary
I know,
Clinton.
but those are two different scenarios.
And she's been rigging the debates in a very obvious way. We all see that they're being
that's
held on Saturday nights during NFL games, and there's only 6 of them. That's insane. It's ridiculous. I mean, that to me is transparent. Maybe not to everybody. Do I have my tinfoil hat on here? Or
yeah,
is that
your
obvious?
tinfoil hat is like super on right
Really?
now. Yeah.
The fact
I
that
think
she
so.
organized those debates, only did
What's
6.
your motive?
There were
What's your
24
motive? No,
last
what's
year.
the motive? What's the motive?
Coronate Hillary. Don't
Yeah.
give her a chance
Okay.
to look bad on TV.
And that's where the tinfoil hat is.
Really?
Because if she looks bad on TV, do you really think...
You don't think the Democratic Party has a stake in getting Hillary to be an unopposed candidate with no damage done to her in the
Well,
primary?
wait. Well,
Is this tinfoil hat stuff?
Saturday nights wasn't last night that was the first Saturday night football game of the year.
No, I thought the last...
No, I think that was the first Saturday night NFL game of the year.
It's still the worst ratings night of
Right, but
But
okay,
come
like-
on, how many people that watch fucking football are going to turn in to watch the fucking debate?
None.
Especially the fucking the fourth one, the
And-
third
There's
one.
50 million
And
people
when
watch
you're-
football.
when you're
There's
looking-
plenty of them that are interested
when you're
in
looking at
politics.
motives, once you start attributing motives, you need a better reason than just it so happens to line up. Because you know what else it lines up with? Making the Democrats look better than the fucking clown car that is Republicans on the big nights of the year, looking like fucking idiots. Like there's way too many of them. They're stupid.
These decisions were made before Trump emerged, my friend.
I don't care because it was a clown car last year. No one was sitting here going, this year the Republicans are going to have a reasonable field of,
So
decent
why did the
candidates."
Democrats not use this strategy last election? Why did they have 25 debates last time in 12?
And did that help them?
Well-
what do you mean? Did it help? Yeah, there's a Democratic president was reelected.
No, but do you really think it helped them?
Well, because I think maybe like
they have
Obama's.
the-
I mean,
is
in
he a
08,
pretty
wait,
good
wait, wait.
debater?
In
Would you
08,
think?
sorry, that doesn't make.
Yeah,
There weren't any debates.
Well,
in 12.
and that's exactly the same reason. The reason, no, in 08, it was a Republican president.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
You mean in
They were
office?
coming out of being a Republican.
I can't count.
So,
Me and
so,
no counting.
so the debate
Yeah, that's
was
two
all
Obamas
about was
back.
selecting
Two
a
Obamas ago.
Democratic person. This year, you've got a Democrat in office. There aren't as many candidates, anyways. I mean, I know he's going out, but there were way less Democratic candidates than there was before Obama got elected for the selection for the primary.
There were 2 leading candidates. It was Hillary and Obama.
This year,
In 08.
In
someone
08, there was like in the very
There were some
beginning,
other
there was
guys,
a
yeah.
million.
Isn't this the least amount of debates there have ever been?
For the
Ever?
Democrats,
Yeah.
yes, by
So-
far. I'm telling you, 25 last time,
And I
6
believe it,
this
yeah.
time.
But
so
what
all right. Well,
what I'm saying is, you're saying it must be because they want to coordinate Hillary.
say
And
must.
I'm saying,
it's 90%. That's probably the reason.
but you have nothing to base that on except that you think that is a plausible justification. What I'm saying is, I can see other equally plausible ones. That they don't want to look like a clown car. That, it doesn't have to be that they want to coordinate Hillary. Because you know what? If Hillary makes a big mistake, it's going to be played in GIFs on Facebook. It's going to be on fucking Fox News 24/7. So don't pretend that, if people don't catch it live, it's just going to be missed. And Hillary
no,
will
but there'd be
fly under the
fewer chances for that to happen.
But okay, say they do have.
Then the
placed-
Saturday night thing is irrelevant. Why did you even bring it up?
Because what are you talking about? Because
You
they
had-
don't
you-
want people to watch them.
But you
That's
brought
why
two
there's only
things.
6.
There's only 6.
and they're on this time when no one will watch them.
But they
Both
don't
of
go
those for the
away.
same reason.
If the number of debates will
Especially
affect
young voters
the number.
aren't going to watch on Saturday night.
No,
But the number of debates is the only thing that matters.
nobody
for that.
watches TV on Saturday.
Nobody
night.
watches live TV unless it's sports.
Are you kidding me? The ratings for the Republican debates are huge.
Because they're going to say there's so much
Because
crazy
people
shit
are-
going to get
yeah.
said. Everyone wants to see
You
what
think
the
everyone
Don's
that
going
was
to drop.
watching the Republican debates is going to vote Republican? I would say
No.
probably at least half are people that are going to fucking tune in for entertainment value and laugh.
Yeah.
Just be like, what an idiot!
Thinking about the debates, I just wanted to ask you guys this: the source, like the PolitiFact thing, how reliable would you say they are?
It's just like.
Well, I would say it's probably
Snopes.
as reliable as Snopes.
You gotta
but
follow
you can
what they
tell,
say.
Because I all I looked at from the debates was them fact checking the candidates' fact statements. And even Bernie, man, out of like 71 statements, only 9 were 100% true.
Yeah.
Only 9.
Right.
But
none of Trump's 91 facts were true. Not fucking one. I'm not even making that up, dude. Not one of the facts, according to PolitiFact, that Trump stated was a fact.
All right, so
not one of them.
If this had happened and his campaign had been the thing, you think so? I'm also crazy to say Schultz would not have peeped one thing about it.
I don't think you're wrong at all. I think she wouldn't have peeped one thing about it had the shoe been on the other foot.
Maybe not. I'm not saying it's not the
damage
case. I'm not saying it's not the
runner.
case.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that when you jump to that, that's showing a bias. That's showing an ideological bent. Because
It is.
show me something that Debbie Wasserman, if you can show me some like legit bias, some like email where she's like, well,
Works
we're going
for Hillary.
That's not enough. That's not enough.
Party
Anybody who's
wants,
ever worked
party
for someone,
wants to maintain the presidency has a front runner. That's another reason of a far front runner who you don't want any damage to be done to in the primary season. You don't want Bernie's people to get fired up and oppose
you can use
Hillary.
that for any kind of thing when you're talking about
she's the
ethics.
front runner.
You can do that at any point.
Can I interject something? This is the thing I don't understand about your theory, John. And I'm not saying it's not correct.
Yeah, it could be
whatever.
true.
It could be true.
Okay.
But the thing that I don't understand, and I'm not saying that Debbie Wasserman might not possibly be this fucking stupid, but if they're going to place all their eggs in Hillary's basket, when they're still, I mean, is the email thing over? Is that done? Are all the
Yeah, it seems to have petered out.
So
Bernie gave her that
she's not
at the
gonna,
debate.
Okay,
He said, we're sick of it.
Okay, well, I didn't
think
know.
she's still under
But what I'm
investigation,
saying is,
though.
yeah, she's still under investigation. Is anything possibly going to come of it?
Yes.
Because if yes, there
Yeah,
is.
something might come
So
out.
then, possibly, if you place all your eggs in the basket, where somebody might get fucking, I don't know, prison time. What is she possibly going to get? Could she possibly be
No.
taken out of being a candidate
No,
because of it?
not forcefully. But if something came out that she committed a crime and then she had to get arrested,
Well,
for
that's
a
what I'm
crime,
right.
then people wouldn't vote for her.
Can you imagine the
So
global
to place
scandal?
all
she
your
gets elected
to place all
president?
your confidence in that, and then there's a possibility that might happen. Aren't you kind of really fucking your party over?
No, because
Like when you don't.
Well, let me.
I understand.
Let me get
Yeah.
in here real quick. Let me just get even another angle since we're talking about conspiracies because I love these.
Mm-hmm.
And since we started doing this show, I'm so much better at thinking of conspiracies from every fucking angle
Yeah.
instead of just mine. So how about this one? And you might even like this. Why? Trump says he's anti-establishment, but he's really not because he knows how to work it and he's always made it work to his benefit. So he's really not anti-establishment. Which candidate out of both sides is the most dangerous to the current course of American government?
Bernie Sanders
Okay.
and Martin O'Malley, but he's not a real
All right.
person.
So
not a
building
real
on
person.
that, okay, let's start there. Could we all agree on that?
Well, it depends what you
That
mean.
the way
Wall
he's
Street- in
talking,
terms of
that
Wall
the way he's
Street.
talking and the things that he's saying and the way things are now, the things he's talking about changing, his kind of sticking and talking points, aren't they the most dangerous to the current way of doing government and the way our government does business in America out of all the candidates?
well, here's
Yes, in
something
several
that-
ways.
Here's something that popped into my head, and I'm not trying to derail this conversation, but that is that seems plausible. But what if? I mean, Sanders has been bought out by the establishment, and now he's running same way that Obama did in 2008 of hope and change and saying, hey, no, you know what? I'm really going to do this, and this is my plan, and blah, blah, blah. And then it's to like make you think, oh yeah, shit's really going to happen now. It's really going to go down, and I'm going to vote for him. And then when he gets in, no, same as it ever was.
It's possible.
Well,
but
yeah, it's possible.
improbable.
But I'm just saying for argument's sake.
Or like appearance change, but not any real change.
Right.
Here's
Here's the weird thing though. That's he's never claimed to going to be anything more than that. That was the claim he made. If you elect me, I'm not going to be able to do anything.
Yeah.
It's going to be more of a
You're gonna
statement
need
than
local
anything else.
elections and
So,
statewide
like,
elections.
if that's what he's doing, then he's at least been fucking honest about it. That's what I'm doing. So, but for conspiracy's sake, like, why wouldn't the Democratic Party want to subvert him if he's the most dangerous to their way of doing business?
Not a Democrat.
but just coming up
he
with
got in there to
opposes
get
them.
heard and to get on the tickets.
Opposes them on key things like the Glass-Steagall repeal of Clinton era. He hammered Bill Clinton the other day for that. He's against the unlimited
Who's
corporate
like the
donations.
Democratic Jesus, right? Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
Here's the problem, though. when you think of somebody who's been accused of a crime, you can sit there and think, well, they denied it. Well, of course they denied it because they don't want to admit to it, because if they did it, that's a terrible thing. Right, or they didn't do it.
Prison's full of innocent men. Just ask the guy you're in your cell with.
Right, but my point is, you can always find, of course, there's lots of reasons to lie whenever there's a benefit for doing so. When you are pointing, saying she's definitely doing it, or she's 90% doing it for this reason, it may be true. But I think back to when Obama got elected, and all the Republicans were screwing him over. Now, if it hadn't been for one piece of information, I would have said, well, maybe they just all individually just kind of are dicks. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a conspiracy, right? And then we found out that it's an actual, then it really was a conspiracy.
That memo or whatever.
It was a meeting. It was like a closed doors meeting. Like, all right,
oppose him on every single thing.
That's
why they said
it would have been a conspiracy.
If Obama came out in favor of oxygen, Republicans would smother themselves.
I'm not saying you're wrong. What I'm saying is jumping to that conclusion is a conspiracy theory type of thing, and you could always do that.
Yeah,
like you could look at the people saying, "Oh, Newtown didn't happen because there's all this motive." And it's like, but when you really look at those claims, a lot of times they fall apart because it's like, well, gun control didn't happen, or 9/11 or whatever it is. You could always find those reasons if you're looking for them.
Yeah. But all right, fine. It is
That's
a
why
conspiracy.
I love conspiracy theories. They're so much fun.
It's a mild conspiracy theory.
Protocols of the Elders of Zion.
And it's not just out of my ass.
Oh,
At least we can say that.
So dangerous, devastating.
Schultz's connections to Hillary, and the other reasons I gave are at least some reason to maybe think this might be going on. I'm fine with that.
To get more scrutiny.
And like I said, I had to check myself because in the end, Bernie's people did break the rules. And what I love, though, at the debate, they asked him, and they were trying to drum up some ratings for this debate in the media by all day. They were like, sparks fly between the Democrats as Bernie, talks shit about the DNC. And then so they ask a direct question at the debate. They go like, Bernie, what about this breach of data? And he's like, you know what? I apologize. I'm sorry. He's like, we shouldn't have done that. And not only do I apologize, that's not the type of campaign we're running. So I'm sorry. And Hillary goes, I really appreciate that, Bernie. Thanks. And it was like the most cordial. That was it. That was the end of it at the debate. And that's how it's been the whole time. He said, we're sick and tired of hearing about your damn emails. And it's kind of frustrating for me because I have a lot of problems with Hillary as a politician. And Bernie is not the type of candidate that can tear her down in the old-fashioned way of bringing out scandals. Just Obama and her were going back and forth in 2008, and it was rough, dude. It was a nasty fight if you look back.
It's both 3 a.m. Do you want a black guy answering the phone?
Yeah. And
what the hot fuck?
That's how politics.
You don't remember that ad?
Yeah, Hillary's campaign. Yeah, that's how American politics has been operating. And Bernie doesn't. Bernie. That's another reason I love him is he doesn't play that game. No attack ads. And I thought going into this, I was like, oh, okay, Bernie's going to start throwing some kind of attack ads, and I'm going to have to read those and be like, wondering if he's breaking his promise. It's the opposite. He's been like too nice. He can't. And she's just standing there on that stage. She looks like a Hindu cow. She's so calm. She's like, I'm running away with this thing, and she is. And Bernie doesn't have that killer be killed personality.
Now,
for
you followed his campaign. You followed his campaign. So I have a question because when I first heard about Bernie Sanders' campaign, I went, "Oh, Bernie Sanders, from our guy." Because when I first heard about his campaign, I believe it was on, and I don't know if this is a real statement or if this was Rachel, because it was Rachel Maddow, where I was listening to Rachel Maddow, and she made a statement when he first started running. She hasn't repeated or anything like that. That was, I don't know what day it was or anything. So bear in mind, faulty memory, but it was almost like that he had said, or maybe that she thought he was running just because Hillary was going to be coronated, and he wanted to just bring the discussion. So that it wasn't going all the way towards her dealing with the Republicans, but rather
he might have said something mildly to that effect, like right when he came on the scene, because he thought he was going to get 5%. He thought he was going to be Martin O'Malley.
Okay, and
now he's got 30% of the Democratic electorate.
No, he said that even this year. He said, I think it was a couple months ago that his election really is not about him, like Bryan was saying.
Yeah,
and that it's about just trying to get this culture of change.
The question I'm asking,
but his presidential race now, he's very, very explicit. He
was talking about his presidential race when he's.
I know, but the question I'm asking, my question was when he first started running, I thought he was basically saying, "I'm not really running. I just want this."
He's in the last.
He didn't say that.
In the last 5 months, he's been very, very serious about winning the presidency.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, like, because
he said explicitly, this is not a symbolic campaign.
Okay,
like, we're in it to win this election.
So, like, he's maybe the guy at the Celebrity Pro-Am golf tournament or car race where he's like, "Ah, man, this is going to be cool. I'm going to get in there." And then
he learns that he's good.
And then he figures out, man, maybe I got a chance to fucking get.
Yeah. I wasn't trying to talk shit. I was
win
just
this
asking.
race.
Yeah, yeah. And when you see the fact that he's raised more individual contributions than any candidate in American history at this point in the election, this
let me
distance,
ask you
that's
this,
a
dude.
big thing to me. That makes, and the size of his rallies, which put hers to shame, it really, and his social media, destroying her on that, and every other Republican
Do you think
candidate.
if she winds up winning, do you think he'll be her running mate?
No.
Why?
I don't think she wants him. I think she'll pick someone from a different region.
But she's going to be maximizing her. She's going to try to be maximized. Do you think she'll get a focus group that tells her she should pick Bernie?
Yeah, he'll be on the short list, and I think Elizabeth Warren would be too. But the problem is, my mom said this a lot. She's like, she will not pick Warren because you can't have two women
on one ticket.
I feel like it would
Or
be.
what about Michelle Obama?
No, no.
That would actually be pretty funny.
Yeah,
I like Michelle Obama. So,
one of those girls is going to run for president someday. The daughters, and I can't wait for it, man.
yeah, it'll be Chelsea Clinton.
Yeah, she will be.
Chelsea Clinton,
She will
2022.
be running for president in the next 20
Actually, wait,
years.
how old is she now? When
She's in
can
her-
she run?
You have to be 40.
No, 35.
30, yeah.
Sorry.
But talking about Bernie and what he is, so what he could also be the guy at the football stadium or sports event with the rainbow wig and the John 3:16 sign going, hey, I might not win, but I'm going to get on TV and maybe somebody will pick up a Bible and read that passage.
Yeah,
John.
yeah, he very well could.
Well, yeah, so
Is it really, in the end, is it really a fucking big deal? He lost access for a day.
No,
He fucked
it's
up.
over.
Let's go.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's over. I think
Well,
it really
why
is.
does all that shit need to be kept secret in this?
What do you mean? What do you mean? What?
The different campaigns data?
Yeah, what's like?
Well,
why?
they
Why
spend,
can't you video record the
playbook.
coming?
Yeah.
playbook.
Well, exactly. So is my question just arbitrary? Like, do we think
Well,
it's stupid that has
It's
to
the
be?
principle. I
No,
think
'cause
because
they
they've
spend
given
a lot
the
of
power.
money on
They've
it.
given the power to the DNC to collate these lists, and so the DNC becomes the gatekeeper. And then the DNC says, "Okay," and then you guys can all access the list, and that's how we're going to play fair.
Well,
and then part of that play fair principle.
But is it like
letting
top
the-
secret information?
No,
Like,
but
why
if
does
Hillary-
freedom of
if
information
Hillary
Act
spends
apply?
thing-
if Hillary spends $10 million diddling with that data to make it
Diddling with that
more useful to her, it makes sense
It
that
freaks me out when you say Hillary and diddle.
Yeah.
I just,
You also can
I didn't
plan
like
what she's
it.
going to do next. If you see that like she found like this big hole, and then there's like a note on the data, yeah, we totes need to do a personal appearance here, definitely before Sanders. Then you can be like,
Yeah.
well, it looks like Sanders is going to be going there next week,
Right.
You know,
it's secret.
Well,
shit.
well, and the thing is, it's not against the law.
No, he didn't.
It's
There's no
only
crime.
it's a breaking of the
Actually-
rules of the party.
Yeah.
It depends.
It's like if
Actually.
you belong
No
to a
one's talking
country
about
club.
criminal
no one's talking about
charges.
criminal charges at all. No, that's true, but you'd be surprised how restrictive our
find-
laws. No,
yeah.
Okay,
well,
You could
I'm
find
just-
illegal. Yeah.
well,
I
if he was
cannot
poor
claim
or-
understanding of the American political system and how it works. So I was just trying to clarify, like, why is it even a big deal?
I don't think that
I get it. He broke the party rules.
Yeah, it wasn't a big
Yep.
deal. It was made a big deal by Schultz when she A, leaked it to the press, and B, locked him out. Because that does hurt you. The campaign, apparently, from what I've read the last 2 days, can't run basically without this database.
Well, and then Bernie responded, and then all his supporters made it an even bigger deal, saying this is fucked.
We were all screaming
So-
and crying on the internet all
Oh,
day.
I saw it.
And he raised $1 million that day.
Yeah, I bet.
And the petition that
2
Mark was
million
shitting
donations, right?
on. Yeah, it's total. Yeah, and there was a petition going around for the Democratic National Committee, and it got 250,000 signatures in like 12 hours.
I know, but the reason I was shitting on it was like, okay, say there's a guy down the street. You don't live in a homeowners association, and he decides to paint his fucking house rainbow bright, whatever. And so then everyone in the neighborhood is like, fuck, that's such an eyesore. I hate that. Blah 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 blah. Whatever. And so they start a petition to make the guy change the paint on his fucking house. Well, you can do that, and then you can even give it to him, but he can go, fuck you.
Yeah, but it's different when you're an organization. And
Yeah.
No, it's really not.
Your
If Deborah
constituents are
Wasserman
telling you.
Schultz wanted to, she'd be like, "Oh, that's nice. You have how many?
Mark.
Fuck you."
No, Mark.
she could. No, she's right. She
could.
could.
But Mark, if Walmart sold
You're-
something that people were offended by,
John,
and
you're conflating, and this is my point about the petition. Have the outrage, put it on social media, fucking speak up. but you don't need to make a petition to fucking cause the change.
The benefit of a petition is a metric. If just lots of people on social media, she's not going to necessarily put the effort into counting. Yeah. But if somebody goes,
you could take a poll.
She doesn't have to.
She's not going to pay $1 million for a poll.
I can't believe Mark suggested a poll because didn't we just shit on those last week?
Well, yeah, but you could be like, 98% of Facebook users are.
I wish they would take polls. I want somebody to poll me. I want to pick up my phone one time and be like, "This is from Hillary Clinton." I want to poll you.
Homo. You want somebody to poll you.
Hey, it's my birthday.
We are. Oh, happy birthday, Brian! By the way,
I'm allowed to be whatever I want today.
How old are you?
I'm like 45, going on 72.
45. That's not that old.
A lot of city miles.
Happy birthday to you.
My voice is way sexier. Happy birthday, Mr.
President of the...
All right, breaking through anger management with Bryan Richter. We got a good one for you today that I remember from the old days, and I reminded Bryan to tell us about. Bryan, set the stage. You're in the United Kingdom. Yeah, it's 1971.
That's fuck you. I was like, I was not even one.
What was the year?
Fuck, I don't know. It was the 80s.
89, 80. Something.
No, it was way before that, like early 80s.
You're in England.
Early mid. I'm in England. I'm
London?
drinking with these British guys. Yeah.
Local pub.
Local pub.
You're young. You're a young, dumb, and full of rum.
It's probably like 1986.
Okay.
Sounds about right. And God, I'm just thinking about what an idiot I was.
Was your brother there?
Yeah, but he wasn't with me.
Okay.
So
thank you, sir.
I say some offensive shit impulsively now, but it's at 16, bro. Oh, I mean, it's just. So this is the first real good lesson I got in restraint.
Sitting in there daytime, drinking with some guy. There's just some locals in there.
Drinking, yeah, with some locals, and this guy with these fucking Popeye arms, hairy Popeye arms. He's just loud.
Was his head shaved?
He was kind of balding.
Yeah.
But yeah, around what was left, his halo was shaved down.
Barrel-chested Englishman.
Like the stereotypical that. He's that dude.
These guys they're so rough, dude. These rugby guys.
So this is how I got clued into that stereotype of guy. And just if you know what that dude is, then you probably already know where this is going. Yeah. All right. So he's calling me a septic. Like everything he said, like he's a septic over here. And so I'm like, hey man, what's a septic? And he's like, well, you're an American, right? And I'm like, right. And he's like, well, then you're a septic. And so right away it pops into my head to say this to the guy. So I just, without filtering it, I say it. And I'm like, now I'm sitting to his right. So I have to look to my left to say I'm across a tiny table from him. So I'm like, well, fuck, if it wasn't for us septics, you limeys would be speaking German. Yeah. And he never took his elbow off the table, but he hit me so fucking hard, right like in the weirdest spot. Like his fist covered so much of my head.
So his elbow, it was like a Batman, like back strike?
Just like one of these. If you've seen the Avengers, the way the Hulk punches Thor sideways off the back, it was one of those. Yeah. And God damn, man! It like I saw the white flash,
and punched you in the head,
in the side of the head, and I was sitting. I went from sitting in the chair to sitting on the floor, and I just like slid directly sideways and then fell to my tailbone, and I remember. So the guy says his friend's already getting up to help me up, right? And he's like, pick him up, and He's like, put him back in his seat. And then he says, but you got no sense talking to me like that, boy. And his friend says, well, he's got some now, don't he? And the whole fucking bar starts laughing. And like they bought me another beer, but they counseled me on discretion.
With your elders?
Well, and like when you're the only American in a bar of British guys, like, or you one of two,
just
like think about what you're about,
defending your country, because you're now in Americans have a hard time understanding that they're now not in America and they're in another country where people like their country.
And I had this kind of,
and probably don't like ours to some extent.
I had this whole patriotic bravado of that whole "we're from Standings, America," like that.
You'd be speaking German.
America, fuck yeah. I'm still confused. What the hell's a septic?
Yeah.
Does he mean like
Septic
a toilet?
tank.
Yeah,
Like
well,
septic
see,
tank.
exactly.
I've never heard that slang.
It's what I was getting.
We should look
I
it
don't
up.
know,
and
maybe-
see
I'm almost
if it's
wondering,
true.
was he making fun of how
we smell?
how
No,
of
and
a spelling of
and
skeptic?
actually, no.
Like you're
Have you
American?
heard this, Mark?
Yes,
Oh.
and actually, there's another slang term. I don't know if it's in Britain, but I know it's in Australia where they call Americans seppos,
Oh,
which is just a
do you know what it?
alteration of septic.
Oh.
It's still sep, but in Australia it's O and O after.
Because if
It's
you like,
seppo.
does it just mean that we're poisonous to the world? Like,
just kind of
Oh
like
no,
full
shit.
it's Cockney
of shit.
rhyming. No, it's Cockney rhyming slang.
Oh, what does it rhyme
I'm
with?
going to go up the apples and pears. I'm going to go up the stairs. The septic tank rhymes with.
Yank.
There you go.
Ah.
Thank you, Internet. You have solved my question
Cockney
again.
rhyming
Right,
slang.
right.
It's still a dick thing
Right,
to rhyme.
but-
There's a
Oh,
lot of
yeah.
But
I
it
told you
still
this is the
infers that
fastest
you're full
Google
of
know,
on
dude.
earth. You cannot Google as fast as Eddie West.
Yeah.
Is that
Well,
just-
When I started the show, I was hoping one of you guys would be Googling stuff. No. Brian and Mark, don't do that.
Well, and even if it
I'm
isn't
right here, man.
I know, it's good. It's
I'm
good.
so
even
in
if
the
it doesn't
moment.
rhyme for yank, it still infers that you're full of shit.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
no,
that's
it's
a
definitely not
derived
like.
thing.
It's not.
Which
It's
I
not
now
supposed
know
to be a
that
compliment.
he was not wrong. Like, I don't disagree with his assessment of us.
Yeah.
It's pretty much what I've come to after 45 years. I'm like, septic. That fucker knew it
Yanks.
in 84 or whatever it was. When was I 16? Jesus.
Nobody knows.
Jeez.
Scholars still debate
See, but
it.
it's funny because that's when we were like probably most closely tied with Reagan and fucking Thatcher.
Yeah.
Like we were, you know,
Yeah, because
Bosom
Reagan had
buddies.
just lit up those Libyan planes or whatever, or bombed Libya
and we
right before
supported them in
that.
Falklands.
See,
Yeah.
we went on lockdown over there after that. They had like fucking armored vehicles at the edges of our housing area and
In
like,
Germany?
yeah, like patrols. They were all
During the Falklands?
no after Reagan. They shot down the whole Libya Reagan thing.
Well, Gaddafi had that plane blown up. And
Wasn't Gaddafi the one who had all the scrapbooks of Condoleezza Rice?
yeah. Weird.
And also the embassy bombing in Lebanon.
yeah, awful.
We did this,
Condoleezza Rice, and that was probably his biggest crime out of all that. The books about.
Brian, we did this like a few weeks ago when you weren't here. I asked the guys like if you had to like bet all your money on yes or no, and you were forced to pick one. And the question is, do you think there are supernatural or things in the universe that are completely contrary to anything we and unexplainable by anything we understand as from our science today, and that people have experienced in human history? In
I
other
thought you
words,
made us pick. Didn't you make us pick?
yeah, same thing. I'm
Like
saying-
what thing? No, I thought you made us
No,
pick
no.
what
I
thing.
asked you at the end of the day, does anything psychic or supernatural or thing exist that you don't know that any psychic stuff is real or
No,
ghosts
it
because you would have told us.
It
But
definitely was not a yes or no question. It was definitely, like Eddie said, we had to pick one thing that we thought could.
no,
be
I
true.
I
remember
listened
'cause
to it over. It was
wasn't because if it was a yes or no question, I would say yes, of course. There could be something that science
but no,
can't
it's a
explain.
bet though. Do you bet on there's some kind of supernatural stuff that you've heard about is real? Or do you
Is the word
bet that it's
supernatural
all
leading,
fake?
Is the word supernatural kind of leading, or is it something that
Yeah.
I would perceive as supernatural?
See, and that's struggle.
That is a
that's tough one
Well,
too.
Because
Because-
quantum mechanics would be
Well, and
we
any
would have called that
sufficiently-
supernatural,
I
but
think
now
we've
it's
talked about this
scientific.
before. Like if you show somebody a really advanced technology that doesn't understand it, they would
Asimov.
think it would be magic.
Asimov's law, yeah.
like so.
I bet you
is-
we could get to telepathy with technology eventually.
Well,
Oh,
so
we
that's-
can. We already have.
Is it-
That
is it
depends
my-
on
is
what
it
your
my-
definition
Useful
of
to
supernatural
Yeah.
is.
Right, see, that's
if you
what
think
I'm saying.
supernatural is just outside of nature, then whatever. If
Then
you think
no,
supernatural is
No.
ghosts and occult stuff,
That is
and-
that is the correct answer to this. Is that it's a spectrum from what is science to what is supernatural. It's just how well have we explained it? Because if there is psychic stuff, maybe we'll discover that there is. We'll prove that it's true, and then we'll figure out who can do it and under what conditions, and then it'll start to be scientific, right? So it's
And
not
I-
really
You know,
a good
I was
question.
thinking of something the other a while ago, a language thing. mundane. It just means like a boring, mundane thing. But you would say like, is this phenomenon supernatural, or is it like a mundane?
When you said it, Indiana popped in my head. I have no
we
idea.
named the dog Indiana,
Ohio.
But mundane just means
Muncie.
the root of mundane is the same. It's worldly. It's of the world, as opposed to say of supernatural, of some other world, or of like, I don't know. So just when we're talking about the possibility of supernatural things and stuff like that, once you understand it, it becomes mundane.
That's right.
To a certain extent, depending. So you have to define it before.
Isn't
you
that
start.
so lame though? There's so many amazing things. Like you say, you don't like nature, but I fucking adore it. So there's so many incredible things on this guy to see.
The globe.
Like, how could you describe things that are of this earth when there's so many fucking spectacular things on this earth as mundane? What a lame word.
Yeah, well, it Zen, like,
for that
proper
purpose.
Zen and everything, like, enlightenment in a way is kind of like the childlike approach to the world where everything is amazing. And the feeling that it isn't, the feeling that everything is boring and understood, that's not truth. That's just that's a human attitude.
Yeah.
It's an emotional thing that arises for one reason or another. We get jaded and things become mundane. But the wisdom, enlightenment, is looking at everything as kind of like a miraculous, or at least fascinating. Yeah. I wish, that's why people
Possibly
envy
giggling at a fart every now and then.
Right, yeah.
And that's why Forrest Gump was the most wise person ever.
And you look at
Those
babies.
look like comfortable shoes.
You look at babies and cats and stuff, and their expression seems to indicate that they're totally amazed by what's
Cats
going on.
do not look amazed by anything.
Well, they're either asleep
Not grumpy
or they're
cat,
amazed. Yeah. Well, cats are constantly surprised by the same shit that they sniffed yesterday. They approach it very carefully,
Actually,
and they sniff it.
Here's a better animal to think of than a cat: an owl. Owls always look amazed.
Who? They're not. They're just hungry and trying to find the thing they're going to kill. Owls are so freaking...
Sometimes they're telling like rats about what word that they're using 12th grade vocabulary to tell rats where to move their houses. So fuck you guys for not. You guys don't know. You guys never read Mrs. Frisbee and the Rats and Nim. Fuck you guys. Fuck you guys.
I apologize.
I did
Eddie.
never read Nim. Although I'm not.
It's
a great movie. The Lee of the Stone.
Yeah.
Do you know why I know what the word Lee means?
Because of that movie.
Because of that book. And
most of my vocabulary came from Calvin and Hobbes, because that guy used like.
He didn't talk down to kids.
Yeah, exactly. And comic books do this too. A lot of the best comics in history, they use, like Alan Moore among others, they use difficult language, and children generally enjoy reading slightly above their intellectual level, and that is very important.
Which or Neil Gaiman.
Why? What about him? He did that too.
Comic books? But he also, more than just language, he also most of his stuff that deals at all with fantasy and stuff. He knows his old mythology. So even when he's inventing something new,
what's your favorite gaming book?
My favorite was probably Good Omens. He wrote that with Terry Pratchett.
Yeah.
I mean, I like American Gods. I like I like Neverwhere. I bought Neverwhere or bootlegged it. I owned at one point Neverwhere, and now it's in Netflix. Everything he's made, I have been like, this is good.
Anansi Boys.
That one's good. It's not. I wouldn't say that one's my favorite, but I like it.
We're gonna plow through to an hour and a half, and it'll just be a one part thing. Let's do our new segment, Commander in Beef.
Yeah.
Mark, so you are a fierce defender of democratic freedoms, and you're also a hardened cynic about human nature. So those two things are tough to... They're not compatible necessarily, because democracy is all... You don't like it when anyone gets trampled on by the power of the government.
Well, I don't like it when anyone gets trampled on by the power of our government, because our government. Well, hear me out. Our government represents that they don't do that. So if you're going to say, hey, we're a dictatorship, we tell you what to do, and you fucking do it, then I don't see a problem because you're not being a hypocrite. You're not saying one thing and doing another. That's my main fucking problem, is when people say one thing and then do another or lie about shit. That's the main crux of any of my fucking arguments.
That's good. That's actually what my book is all about that I let you borrow. It's better to be genuinely evil than to be fake good.
Right.
So, but we'll talk about the I want you guys to kind of let this boil for a minute while we do this scenario. The question of, is it better to have a benevolent dictator or a democracy in which everyone has a voice? I want to end the show on that philosophical question.
Is it better to have a benevolent dictator or a shitty democracy, or just a generic any democracy?
Well, let's say the one we have, this kind of democracy. So half shitty, half okay.
I would say it's better to be a benevolent dictator.
Well, we'll end with that debate. So I want to give you a scenario, Mark, because last week you advocated for what I would call a rational isolationist policy. You're not radical isolationist. You said, still have diplomacy, still maybe help our allies when need be, but generally let's get out of the Middle East and take these, disassemble these bases. And I challenged you with, well, what about, because another country is going to now take over, fill that vacuum. And you were like, whatever, it's not my problem. It's not our problem. You didn't want to fight that battle of who's going to rule the world. So let me boil it down to a scenario. You are born into a world where each neighborhood has two guys that compete for sort of control over all the different streets and houses. And control meaning that you kind of make the laws and you also help, you make sure everyone's fed and you're in charge of like public health in that neighborhood. So you're born into this world, right? And your father happens to be the guy, one of the two guys in this neighborhood. And then there's another guy who's been his political rival, your whole life. But now your father passes the mantle on to you and you're now in charge of half of this neighborhood. Now, the other leader he's shitty. I mean, he's in it for himself. He steals a lot of the food for himself. All the best stuff for him. People have died. Infant mortality rate on his side of the neighborhood is much higher than yours, right? It's just a crappy, he doesn't care about human rights. He's basically China. Okay, so now you, Mark, are who you are with your values. You're born into this world. It sounds like you're saying that the U.S., which is you in this scenario,
should not intervene in any way.
Should pull back and give up power because it's not right to control people based on what you think is okay and just. And so you're going to give away your blocks and your houses and you're just going to sort of get out of it. This is the way it works in neighborhoods in this hypothetical world. And now as a result that the other guy is now going to take over those streets and those houses and those properties because that's how it works. He's the strongest guy after you. And, infant mortality rate's going to go up. In other words...
I already have my answer if you want me to give it.
Because if we divest from the Middle East and everything, China and Russia and things will take over.
First off, let me make sure that I understand the parameters and add some more information. My house that I actually live in is the U.S., right? And then the rest of the blocks and houses that I control are the other countries that I have bases in and doing stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. So now let me add some more information. Now, not only have I inherited this mantle and I'm supposed to protect all these this neighborhoods and houses, whatever, but my own house is in bad need of repair and is falling apart. Mm-hmm. And the people that are my immediate family and are living with me are living in shitty conditions.
But not as bad as the other guys.
Maybe not as bad as the other guys, but they are living in shitty conditions. Okay. And some of them are probably as bad as the other guy. As some of the other guys.
But generally, no.
As some of the, yes.
There's much more poverty in China than there is here. And it's much worse. There's people that are...
I was talking about the other guys that I'm providing
Okay.
Protection to.
He was objecting that usually Iraqi civilians are in a worse shape than most Americans.
Right.
I'm still puzzled by that, but that's what he was saying.
But
that's a good point.
So under all those things, then what I do is I say, okay, rest of you neighborhoods, blocks, houses, whatever, that have been under my protection, I will still help you out where I can, but I need to fucking fix my own shit. So if you do not fucking work for yourself to help yourself, I can't really provide too much. Like, we all need to be in this together, or I can't be fucking Papa Wonderful anymore. You know what I mean? So if you can't fucking, like I said, I'll help you out where I can, but I got to put my focus on my own fucking house and get it working again.
But you do have the best house in the whole neighborhood.
On the outside.
No,
yes, from the outside. If you're looking at my house
do you
outside,
think that the dude,
it looks like
we're the
best
richest,
shit.
we're the richest country in the history of the world.
The pipes are fucking rusty.
Did you ever play Jenga? We were at that point where the Jenga tower is like just this side of toppled over. I feel like this metaphor is very strange.
Oh, it's terrible. It's
Okay.
terrible, Eddie. It's barely holding together.
I'm not sure it's
I didn't
holding
think it
together,
through
dude.
well enough.
Well, not well enough to get beefed.
Yeah. Well, so what do you guys have any input on that? Because what's going to happen is that other guy's house
Well, I think so.
is
We
going
can't.
to
we
his
can't
guys
be like,
are going to take over every house that you take your protection away from.
I also think
So
so.
what's
but
going to
what
happen?
he was saying,
Okay.
what Mark
and
was
the infant
saying,
mortality rate of those
but
houses
what Mark
will go
was
up.
saying last week and the previous week, and you can speak for yourself, but I want to point out a difference. There is a difference between saying I don't want to intervene on the internal problems of Syria, and I won't intervene if Russia invades Syria. Now, I don't know what position you take, Mark, but those are two different scenarios.
they
Right.
are
So,
very different.
what is
really.
your position on those two scenarios without going into this whole analogy? What is your position on the difference between Syria and Syria's government being shitty and the people in Syria
We're supposed
not,
to answer this question in
Well,
15
okay,
minutes.
no,
And
no,
also,
no,
my
no,
and also
no,
my
I
point.
got it.
My
I got
point
it.
is that
It's
on
we
the
were
difference.
born into this situation that we have. None of us were born when this global hegemony was taking place after World War II. So this is the scenario we're in. We're the richest country in the history of the world. The second biggest power in the world is China. And they have a terrible human rights record, and they have hundreds of millions of children starving to
Okay,
death.
well, let me answer Eddie's question and then give you
sorry.
an example of why I think the way I do.
Yeah.
To answer Eddie's question, for me, there is no difference between me saying, I'm not going to go into Syria and fuck around with you and try to change you and try to influence. And if Russia comes and invades you, then I'm going to help you out. Because really,
Oh, so you are equating.
Syria is
Okay.
of no interest to me. What happens in Syria is very removed from the effects to America in my mind. Now, let me give you an example and why America, I think, should take the mantle from Switzerland, Australia, many of the Scandinavian countries, and say, you know what, we're going to concentrate on ourselves. The rest of the world we'll help out where we can. We'll do what we can. We're not saying isolationist.
But I think it's pretty clear that
gonna help you. And
but our
we're gonna
economy,
build fence
I think it's
borders.
pretty clear that our economy would suffer if we divested from the oil fields of the Middle East and just
I'm
walked
also very
away.
confused by the where we can.
But
Well, I'm saying, okay, don't say
Our
where we can.
economy would suffer.
I'm going to say we're going to focus on our own country and helping it out and making it fucking better again.
I think it's
And
fair
then
to say
if
I'm not an
we
economist.
can't-
but
Are
I
you
think-
saying you want to make America great again?
Yeah.
I think our economy would almost definitely. We have to ask an expert, but if we leave the Middle East and all that oil revenue, if we're not partnered with Saudi Arabia anymore,
We're not getting oil
What,
revenue.
what are you talking about?
We have trade deals with OPEC, with Saudi Arabia. We have bases over there. We have bases in Israel.
How is me saying we're not going to go militarily have an action in Syria, whether Russia invades or not,
you're not
going
saying-
to affect fucking how our relationship with Saudi Arabia? How is that going to affect our relationship?
No,
with,
it's not. I thought your general opinion was that we should no longer be protecting Saudi Arabia and strong allies with them due to their human rights.
I'm not saying we can't be strong.
That's something
allies.
I think.
I'm
I
saying
don't
that
know if
I
you
don't
think
I was
think. I
going to
don't
say,
think.
yeah, let's not do it anymore. Fuck those guys.
Yeah, but I think
It's just my 2 cents.
But I think we would suffer as a result.
We might suffer,
And
but guess
Israel
what?
might
Let-
fall.
John,
Dude,
John,
you know,
this
one
is
of my
the- this is
favorite
the point.
sayings, dude, the juice is worth the squeeze.
It's good. No,
Yeah,
no.
but what
Let me-
president is going to usher in an
let
age
me,
of
let me
economic
say
decline?
this. Yes, if we said we're not going to protect Saudi
An
Arabia
intelligent
anymore,
one that knows we're heading in the wrong direction.
our relationship might suffer. But guess what? We are the ones who are suffering for the relationship with Saudi Arabia to the Western world. If we said we're going to draw back and the rest of the Western world can fucking help out protecting Saudi Arabia and pitch in fucking more than they are.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're not the only people who have a vested interest in Saudi Arabia's oil.
No,
we're not. But we're the main fucking protectors. We're fucking Big Daddy of the fucking world, which should end.
But then Israel falls. We cut off our
bye Israel.
Then you have a massive, and they have nuclear weapons, by the way. So that's not.
First,
that's
so
not.
what you're saying,
they will not
what you're
go
saying is
quietly
they
into
will
the night,
launch
bro.
everyone.
So what you're saying is, say if one small country invaded a country right next to them that was very similar to them, that you'd be fine with that. You wouldn't want to intervene. And then they said they just wanted some arm room. They just wanted some leg room. Right, and
I think they called it Lebensraum.
Thank you for rude. Thank you for.
Let me make this real simple. What I'm saying is we stop.
All right.
We stop doing everything individually. We can still protect countries and help out through the UN. We can provide them with stuff. We can and so as a coalition, as a real coalition, not us fucking trying to do all the shit ourselves and trying to force our fucking process and influence on the world.
My point was just that I hate how much aid we give to Israel, how much military stuff we give, how we let them do human rights abuses. They've used white phosphorus, no UN investigation. We veto anything for Palestinian statehood. I don't like all of that. On the other hand, when I look at the complexity of the situation, I can't just go pull out, fuck them. Then you get invasions and you get millions of people dead. You get wars, the likes of which you've never seen. Like anyone who says this is so simple, what we should do in the Middle East. Like I have strong ideological almost views on what we should do there, but I don't trust them at all. I don't trust myself to. If I was president, I wouldn't just go. And they showed me all this information. I wouldn't be like, I don't care. I already know what I'm going to do. Get out of Israel. Get out of Saudi Arabia. Screw them. Even though I believe in my heart that that's right, I wouldn't do it. And I think that's the thing about presidents that pisses us off so much is that they never stick to their ideological guns. And it's almost like they can't, they're running the world. The complexity of that is so much. And I grant this measure of benefit of the doubt to George Bush as much as I do to Obama. I'm not just saying, hey, Obama's not that bad of a guy and I'm giving him an excuse for what he's done. I'm kind of giving all of them an excuse for being shitty. Because don't we think they're all shitty? Do we have any kind words to say about any president in our lifetime at this table? I mean, we usually...
words? I have several kind words for various presidents.
Yeah, okay, good. But usually, my point is that we're usually very cynical about it. And the more I think about the complexity of world geopolitics, the less I'm like, I wish he just would have done this. Fuck the Republicans. Just do what you want. It doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that in what you're talking about, because if one of the parties controls the majority of Congress, whatever, then the president can try to do stuff.
Right.
Be like Jimmy Carter. He'll be a lame duck.
The Republicans not only control both houses of Congress, they control 32 out of 50 governorships and 2/3 of the local seats
no matter
in the
what
country.
Obama wants to do,
Republicans run the country for the last 5 years.
Right,
they run the country.
But to answer your question about you don't. About pulling out of the country. I'm not saying that's exactly the answer, because nothing has a super simple answer. But what is it? The definition of mental illness is to continue.
Is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Right.
Okay.
Go
ahead,
I just want to say, pulling out seems like a simple solution, but it's not 100% effective.
Does anybody know if we're part of a UN action, can American troops be under foreign command?
Yeah.
Then I don't like that.
Well, it's not. Well, it is foreign, but it's under UN command. So what each,
as the British would say,
what each country does is they give you some troops, and then those troops put on the blue helmet, and they still wear their flag, but they're UN troops, and they're under the command of whoever's leading that battalion.
And it's if I understand it correctly, and I could be wrong on this, I think it's generally voluntary. It's like, you go, like, it's voluntary for, I don't know if it's voluntary for the individual soldier, but certainly voluntary for the country. Like,
right.
So if your guy, and if your commander says, do what he says.
Because there's like 168 nations in the UN or something, right?
Yeah.
But when they say a UN coalition, it ain't represented by all 168 nations.
No.
It's represented by us and Great Britain and
it's a lot of countries put a few guys in. A lot of small
it's on an individual basis, so you can look at what the conflict is
and decide whether or not you want to commit
I'm not
people to the
contributing
effort.
troops to that, or yes, I am.
And the UN,
or I'm only giving you some money or weapons and no troops. Or
no, I got it.
UN operations, their rules of, you think our rules of engagement are restrictive? They can't do anything. They just basically stand there. They've been in a few firefights over the last 50 years, and whenever they leave. The UN pulls them out
honestly
immediately afterward. They're not a warring group. They're there for peacekeeping, sort of. But I wrote a 40-page dissertation on sexual abuse committed by UN peacekeepers, and it's kind of out of control because there are all these guys from different countries, and they go to this third world country where there's some horrible thing going on, and then this whole prostitution economy builds up, and all these girls and boys are prostituting there, and the UN peacekeeping troops were withholding life-saving stuff that they were supposed to be passing out, like water and medicine, and like they give them cell phones and stuff, and they were withholding that for sex from like 8-year-olds, and it's been going on for 20 years now at least. And the UN, the Secretary General who's in charge of it and his other deputies, they have complete diplomatic immunity.
Well, I'll tell you what, man.
100%. You can't charge them with a crime. No country can charge them with a crime, and peacekeepers themselves can't be charged with a crime while they're by the UN. They're supposed to be charged by their own country when they go home, and it never happens.
So every third word you say drops the UN another notch down the Richter scale.
That's why I honestly wish
I don't want to be part of something like that. I don't want our troops being something.
The UN is
that.
Dysfunctional. And if I had my druthers, I really wish that we had something like, why don't we I feel like the country should be electing their UN representative instead of it being just a random.
Well, because it doesn't.
Then there should be real binding things. The Security Council is fucking nonsense. That would be like if California and New York could be like, no, we don't like that law.
Yeah.
Well, in the way you're describing it, it's fucking stupid. It's like saying, okay, we're expecting violence, so we're going to go there to protect these people. But when the violent
better blow us.
But when the violent people come to hurt us, we're just going to leave. Like, if you came there to protect people, and why would you send soldiers not to fight? Because I don't know if the.
Yeah, but
maybe I got the concept of armies and soldiers wrong. Like, they fight. Right, that's what they do.
Right, but one thing you don't seem to like about them, which I don't, is how much authority and power they have. Now, if they're carrying out prolonged battles and they're invading cities now to take down the guys that shot at them, they're here because there's two factions in this country. And the government of that country is basically collapsing. The UN is there to prevent collapse of states, and so.
And they can
to
defend
get them into
themselves.
a 6-month or a 2-year war now, where it's UN versus this group. That's kind of weird, right?
And they can defend themselves. So, like, really, what it is so you go to a country, and the UN is not here to stop the fighting. Generally, they want to. That'd be cool. But
try to get in the
middle. Clearly, there has to be some vested interest because they didn't intervene in Rwanda or any of those
when they
places.
Come, usually they're coming with something. Like, they're coming to protect
with empty oil barrels
or food
or something like that.
And as long as you don't fuck with it while it's under their control, they don't do anything. Now, the problem is, of course, often they'll go like, okay, well, we'll hand it out to these people. And then as soon as they leave the 100 yards that the UN is in, then they just attack them there. And so it's not worth it most of the time to attack the UN. That's why the UN's not usually in these firefights. It's not that they can't fight. It's that they are here, and all they can do is defend.
Yeah.
Well, and while I mentioned...
I got it. I wonder how any of the guys who are in the armed forces that listen to the show or have been on the show, how they would feel about it. Like, I bet you they don't want the UN's rules of engagement.
No. But
and I mentioned the UN, but that wasn't my point. My point is I am tired of America building empire and
world police.
And world police, and I have not heard an argument yet against why trying to follow the example of Switzerland or Australia
The
or any other
argument-
country where they are not trying to build empire.
The argument I gave you is that the other country that is building empire will build into that realm once we leave.
Why?
That's
So Australia and Switzerland, we have military bases there and are protecting them from attacks.
If somebody invaded Switzerland, do you think that the U.S. would just be like, well, they're neutral, so we're not going to do anything because fuck them? No. Don't even, that's nonsense. And
No, it's not nonsense because, yes, we would, but so would every other fucking country in the Western world. It would be a combined effort. It would not just be us, ourselves, forcing our fucking policy on some other country.
Well, just to be clear, we have the best technology in the world, and we've spent the most money of everywhere but Russia in the world. So when you say it would be other countries, true, 100% true. But if Russia decided, they invaded several countries, they're not close to Switzerland. Let's assume they were bordering Switzerland, decide they're going to just invade. Russia would win that if we were not involved. If we were we're Switzerland, we're going to be neutral. Russia would win the shit out of that, and they would win that in a heartbeat. Switzerland survives in part because there is a dichotomy of world powers.
But Eddie, we are not talking about conflicts that have arose because of possibility of World War III. We were talking about little fucking skirmishes that we fucking make worse by involving our fucking selves.
Well, and that is somewhat true.
Yeah. So let's end with this discussion then.
So are you just pretty much advocating for stuff I'm sorry, man, just
go ahead.
not like bases, but not doing shit like funding rebel groups that later become
Seriously.
Exactly.
that later
Arming
become
rebel
threats
groups.
to world fucking
Can we
peace?
just not ever do that again?
And
please?
even the military bases that we have, why can't we start, and maybe we do, the actual citizens of the country, train them to fucking do the same shit and
Well, we do. That's
we
what we're
tried
trying
that.
with the Iraqis.
Yeah, we try that with
No, but I'm talking about in Germany and in other, it's hey, okay.
I will say that there's been a huge drawdown in Germany, but a lot of those German towns where those bases are, a lot of that town has come to depend on that income.
Yeah.
And they're not, although
we're
they're
not
not
there
cool.
for the stability of Germany.
Yeah, although they're not totally cool with the Americans being there all the time. I know that in the interest of, like you said, we've spent so much money on our military force. I don't think when the Russians were a big threat that the Germans minded having that whole air wing at Ramstein where we could, because the Russians had so many tanks that they could have run over Europe within days but our Air Force can wreck tanks. So having us over there, one plane kill fucking 15, 20 of your tanks, dude.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that at that time could hang with us in the air. We would have just demolished it. And then all those between that and all those carriers in the Mediterranean and all those air bases in Turkey and Greece, there would have been no way that the Russians could have taken Europe, and that was real threat.
Well, then why don't we make the country that our military bases are in that we're protecting? Why don't they make them kick down some fucking money? Go, you know what? We'll leave our base there. We'll leave troops there. Whatever you guys want, but you guys got to fucking financially support this shit.
No, I don't really think so. I think we and then we're required to employ so many people from the host country, and then we have to honor all their holidays. The Americans used to bitch about it because you're working and Germans get a holiday once a week, dude. They have so many. I mean, it's thousands of years that country's been around, and they have all these different traditions and they honor them all. So they're always off work.
You know what? Actually, I've just realized this entire issue was dealt with in a comic book. To talk back about the comic books, whatever happened to whatever happened to the Man of Steel? It was the one where the idea was Superman being around is making people rely on Superman.
Right.
But then the question then becomes well, what does Superman do? Just stop saving the oil tankers? Then they're going to sink. Everyone's going to die.
Right.
And so you have to really look at it when you make that statement. We should just back away.
Yeah.
Well, Russia invaded the Ukraine.
Point.
That was the last big invasion we've had in a long time, really.
So basically, we're going to end the show on I don't know, like we always do.
Yeah, but I also want to address this final question of.
And also what you're saying is that the problems that arise globally with our country, we have to keep doing. We have to keep doing what we've been doing, and it's going to have the same results.
Sometimes it seems like that. I don't know. I'm just saying my whole point is radical agnostic is that it's way tougher than I would like it to be.
Isolationist, we got attacked by the Japanese.
I think what Mark's saying, I'm going to equate to my toe. It was a painful fucking situation,
right?
And I could have kept grinding it out and grinding those bones down, but I went through this period of painful, shitty change
good
that I'm still going through.
Yeah,
and then when that shitty period of change, painful change is over, then I work on rehabbing it and
healthy.
building my new systems and fucking reaching out into my world again.
Yeah.
And I'm healthy.
Very good
Same
analogy.
as if you're a junkie. You know,
And I
you
think
might
when
want
he's
to
saying,
withdraw.
like, I know you guys said, like, the average American has it way better than the average Iraqi. Okay, true. Tell that to the dude who can't walk well and is really sick living under the bridge down by Keno. I bet you he doesn't fucking feel the same way. I bet you he feels like he has it just as bad as anybody.
True, but objectively,
And maybe
he has
Mark's-
it better than the worst guy
Right.
in Iraq.
But maybe Mark's just saying, while we have those problems here, like,
But that's a false dichotomy too. I mean, that's a false dichotomy.
well, all
That's
right,
saying,
all right. Well, I want to move on. I want to move on.
but it's still a legitimate fucking
it is.
viewpoint.
It is when you
it's a logical fallacy. But
Well, first off, dude in Iraq that has it the worst isn't an American citizen. So I'm talking about people
Right.
that are in
Right.
America.
That's
all I'm saying.
Right.
It's a legitimate
That's
viewpoint.
our
These
place.
are these people are definitely our responsibility.
yeah.
Maybe
Once-
those
once
other
it
people are
becomes a
too,
one-world
but there's
government-
no doubt about
Right.
these.
But
Then
some
we can
people
talk about something else.
disagree that you can only have one or the other. That's what Eddie was saying. You can address both things theoretically at least.
I'm cool,
So-
but we're not addressing ours. I don't feel like. Does anybody here feel like we're addressing those issues in
do you
our
feel
own?
like
No,
we're
we're
not
not
addressing
not.
ours.
No, but there might be a
And-
policy that addresses both.
But there, you guys,
Yes.
you
And I'm
guys
cool
are-
with
so the
that.
answer isn't always stop
But you
addressing
guys are
the
giving
Iraqi.
a logical
Remember, you
fallacy
weren't asking me the
because
question. No, I know.
we're not just not addressing ours, but we're not helping the Iraqi citizen who has it the worst by raining fucking bombs down on his head.
Okay, you're right.
moving on.
The thing is when you observe a presidential election in this country, and this has happened on this show a lot, the primary feeling is cynicism, right? I mean, the average American rolls her eyes at this whole process and says, "Look, these people are all clowns, blah 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 blah. It's all a show," and they're right. I mean, we've talked about the media many times and how it's influencing this process, and people are right to be cynical. But what is that? What's the logical conclusion of that? I mean, Bryan, you've said before, you have a sort of a funny, joking statement that 85% of people are idiots, right? And we all have a similar view, because you see so many millions of Americans.
I think Beef probably thinks I'm shooting low.
Yeah.
And I'm
the
really
fool.
worried about what side of that line he thinks I'm on.
And so if that's true, though, that cynical view about human nature, do we believe in representative democracy at all? I mean, aren't we just in the same boat as the more monarchical founding fathers who were worried
I
about
think-
giving out the vote, and they were worried about what would happen if giving it to uneducated people who are voting for Donald Trump? And that's why the intelligentsia of during the Enlightenment, that's why they were skeptical about representative democracy, and especially direct democracy.
Well, I think cynicism's always healthy because it leads to change because you question things.
Right, but as a political system,
Well, I think. Well, see, here's what I think.
what
I
happens
think
when
it
you
does-
give
there's a
that
quote.
85% of
There's a
voice
quote, though. There's a quote,
and
though.
power? You
There's
give
a-
them a vote. Is that good or bad? Should they have that or not?
There's a quote,
Yeah,
and I
sure.
can't remember the origin of it, but it's, democracy or even representative democracy is a shitty system.
Right.
It's the best system that's been tried,
Right.
but that doesn't
Yeah.
make it not a
Right.
shitty system.
Yeah.
Any other alternative you put up, when you phrase it as benevolent dictator, well, I may as well phrase it as educated electorate.
Right.
Just think about this, dude.
'Cause my-
Who are the least? If we're going by my theory, right? Who are the least capable people of problem solving and dealing with fucked up, stressful situations and all that? Is it the 85% or is it that other 15%?
85.
They're the least capable of it. So think of how much better things would be globally if things were catered to the actual majority of those fucking boneheads.
Think how much better it would be, or
Think
worse?
how much more peaceful the world would be if things were catered to them. That's what your dude Bernie's asking for, to cater to the 85ers,
And you're
to
agreeing,
take care of them better, to bring them up instead of keeping them down. Because our system's not designed to take care of our population that's 85% dipshits.
Well, also
It leaves behind 85% of the country.
Well, it leaves
our
behind
economic
if,
system.
If you're that 99% movement, it leaves behind 99%
Right,
of the country. Like
Well,
we
also-
may be the wealthiest country in the world, but we ain't the
not spread
wealthiest
around.
fucking population in the world
It's
by
not-
a damn sight.
it's not spread around.
No.
Well, also,
It's not.
if you're looking,
because
if
the
you're
house-
looking for a solution to all these problems,
There ain't
this is
one.
going to sound
He
like,
has
well,
one,
no, it's
apparently.
going to sound like a very simple thing, and I'm sure with thinking about, you can break it down. But change really comes from within. And so whether we're talking about America changing the rest of the world to be
Man in the mirror,
positive,
your boy.
or if we're talking about all the people in this country electing a president who's going to fucking change our country to be positive, we need to start first and foremost with ourselves. You as an individual,
but on
going, what? No. Listen to me. And we've talked about this before about how a moral code is not based on a religion, right? It's this fucking supposedly inherent thing that we know that right from wrong.
We've debated it. We're not in agreement on that.
We're not in agreement yet? I thought we were.
Well,
I
think
we
agree
that people inherently have a moral code.
Well, I think that we agreed that there were things that there were morals that were kind of
like
universal.
The idea that you
sort
can
of
be good without having religion,
certainly, yeah,
right?
Yeah, just the way.
You could be good without religion. Yeah.
We all agreed on that.
It's not dependent on religion to have morality.
No, but I think
Correct.
on an earlier show we did talk about and basically agree that there's kind of there's for the most part
it's very sparse.
There's a set of morals that are fairly universal.
There's things like loyalty, which almost no culture ever doesn't value.
Right.
But there's very few of those things, of those universal quote unquote moral
well, no,
principles.
there might be a ton of them, but they might just be interpreted like what the Spartans considered honorable wouldn't have been what what these other people considered honorable. So they still had those same traits. They just viewed them differently. They still all value honor and loyalty and.
That's it.
Honor
Like and loyalty, and just how that's interpreted.
Well, and they have an idea of what good is,
but honor though
it's
is
generally frowned upon to fucking kill people in most cultures.
No, not executions. I mean, not the Spartans will kill all day for fun. I mean, they didn't think it was wrong to kill.
If you had a lumpy head,
yeah, they didn't. It wasn't wrong to kill at all.
I do wonder sometimes though. You were talking about in terms of types of government, which is separate than how can we improve what we've got, which is what you're saying, Mark. You're talking about it starts at home, starts with yourself.
Yeah, and you're right.
In talking about governments in general,
right?
Heinlein put out the idea of you could only vote Starship Troopers, right? And I don't think it's in the movie much, but in the book,
finish the sentence. You can only vote what?
That's what I'm saying. In the book, Starship Troopers, you could only vote if you were in the military. You had to do 2 years of service, and then you were a full citizen who got to vote.
And there's a lot of people on Facebook saying, I think everyone should be forced to be in the military.
I think that's overly service simplistic. Dictates the rights that you have. What service?
I think that's overly simplistic because I don't think service alone is sufficient.
Right.
But I think the idea of having to earn your citizenship, even if you're born here, I think that there's some value to that. And the idea of anyone can do it, and if you physically can't, we'll find a way that you can still do it. You're missing 2 legs, you don't serve in the same way.
It's a nice idea, but it's not implementable because say whatever the standard is for you to get the vote, to get citizenship, there's going to be some groups. Racial, gender, this, that, religious, that are just because of the way things are, will have fewer citizens represented. They won't. Native Americans, if you have to graduate high school to vote, Native Americans won't have their full 1% of the population as voters because so many of them don't go to high school.
But if you leave it up to individual choice, if you let's say we're going to oversimplify and say you have to 2 years of military service and combat to vote, right? But then, you got no legs. Well, you can't really be, there is guaranteed an alternative for that.
Okay.
Then it's an individual choice. So it's you had school, or you chose not to finish.
Or you could do one of these 3 things to get citizenship. You could either work at a job for 5 years straight,
or I was simplifying
service.
for the purpose. The idea of just, so long as it is, if you want it, you can always get it.
See, Bernie's on the opposite.
Except for
Bernie wants you to have automatic voting registration at 18 years old. He thinks every 18-year-old should be just automatically registered to vote and allowed to vote.
It's nonsense that that's not the case, frankly.
Yeah.
Because everyone has the right to it. So what is the purpose of registration? Unless you're going to tell me it's a barrier, and then admit that. Say that that's
a barrier. Yeah, all those voting.
Most people say it's not. Most of the time, the voting laws. No, it's not supposed to be a barrier. It's supposed to get. It's no.
Yeah.
If you want it to be a barrier, we can have that conversation, but if you're going to try to pretend it's not a barrier, it's nonsense.
And he's saying to the people who say, well, there'll be more voter fraud. It's first of all, there's a tiny amount of voter fraud right now. It's not significant. Secondly, he said, throw them in jail for 5 years if there's voter fraud. Make it a serious crime. Make it a felony.
I don't understand why that's even a fucking thing, because the majority of registered voters don't vote, right? So who cares if you're fucking registered automatically at 18?
Well, it would
undoubtedly you're not going to vote anyway.
Well, no, it would raise the number of people who do vote.
You think so?
Of course.
I don't think that.
If you expand who can vote by 50 million people,
I don't think the problem
then more people will vote.
Registered. I think the problem is people either being disinterested or fucking not.
Why can't they both be a problem?
because you're focusing on registering to vote. You're not focusing on changing the fucking way that elections.
I'm not going to fix everything. I'm just going to fix part of it that you can fix with a law.
And I think that's the wrong thing to fix.
You can't fix participation with a law. You can't fix motivation with a law. But you can fix the voter, the people who aren't registered. You can fix that with a law. So it's a piecemeal solution. But there's no reason for you to attack it because it doesn't fix everything.
You can fix
and it would be easy to do.
Like by the whole corporate.
When a nurse is typing in your birth certificate, or when they're giving you your corporate ID number, your social security number, they can just click an extra box that in 18 years it fucking snaps up in a national database that you're registered to vote. That wouldn't be hard to fucking do.
The only problem with that, though, is the only weird sort of problem with that is, when you move and stuff. You're still ready. You never registered, say, in Tucson.
Yeah.
And because you knew you were going to college over here, and you're leaving the fuck out of Tucson as soon as you can, right? So you just never registered to vote here. Well, but you are registered to vote here because...
Yeah, but they can track you through your social security number.
There's bureaucratic solutions to
bureaucratic
that. So I'm not arguing that they shouldn't do it. What I'm arguing is that the idea that this is really the thing you should concentrate on.
So if the political system's a leaky, wounded group of victims, you're just triaging. You're like, this isn't our priority. Give this fucker some morphine and let him sit. Let's go fix the sucking chest wound.
Except there's no cure for that a government can do for motivation.
I do think if we change the rules for how you can vote, the number of people who I think it would increase if you had to try, we'd have the same number of people and we'd probably have similar percentages. But it would be, the 85% who didn't vote couldn't even vote anyway because they were too lazy to even try to vote. They were too lazy to become people who could vote. Whereas the people who got the ability to vote, I think that would have a huge,
So where do we stand? Each one of going around the table has representative American democracy. Is it a complete failure? And should we flip over and go dictator or some other option, or do we have to? Should we stick with this?
Was Rome a complete failure till it was burning?
No,
we're not on fire yet.
Are we talking about Star Wars now? Because that's the whole thing about Rome. When you say Rome, which one are you talking about? The Rome with the Senate or the Rome with the Caesar?
Yeah, the Republic or the Empire.
Again,
all of it.
My point, and I agree with Brian, I don't think it's a complete failure. But my point is, if
we're headed that way.
We're headed that way. But if you actually want to address any of these problems that we're talking about, then I think you need to take it personally. And as a person, as an individual, live the way you feel is just, that the rest of the world or the country or whatever is unjust. And you should fucking deal with people on an individual basis the way you want to be dealt with, and fucking try to lower.
But the bigger question of the political system.
But that's what I'm saying is, once we as individuals are like that, then that's going to affect the rest of the fucking world, or even if it's just the citizens in our country, it'll affect the political system.
Brian and I are going to see...
And then you could say, be cynical, even more cynical than someone saying the American system doesn't work, and say, that'll never happen because you need a law to fucking make that happen.
We have tickets for Star Wars on Christmas Eve at midnight. Myself, Brian, Paula, and Christine.
Oh, it's going to be so good. In recliners, right? With
Eddie,
beer?
So you saw it. I'm going to ask you for two things here. A 1 to 10 rating, 10 being the greatest movie you've ever seen, 1 being the worst, 5 being an okay film. Not very good, but okay, watchable. And then the other one I'm going to ask you is to rate it 1 through 7, because there's 7 Star Wars movies. And
I like it.
So give me the general movie quality on the 1 through 10.
I'd probably go.
And you can do decimals.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd probably go 8, 8.5, maybe.
So very good.
I did enjoy the movie. There are some big problems, but the thing I would say about it is this: a lot of movies, especially fantasy or sci-fi, depending on the argument you're going to have about this, movies will have big problems. The question is, can you deal? Can you just? Does it move fast enough and it's cool enough and you're enjoying it enough?
Yeah. Do you want to answer that for me? Absolutely, I can get past that.
Brian,
I have no problem.
Brian, with the shitty movie, you're like, this is a shitty movie, and also that's stupid. You know,
I already tell you by this. If this guy gives it an 8.8, Beef's gonna be like, "What, Brian? Really? It was that good?" Like that's what I'm gonna get.
Brian, has there ever what's an example of a blockbuster action movie that you've seen in the last 5 years that you didn't like? Were any of them not good?
Oh yeah, tons of them, dude.
Really?
Both those movies about the White House falling. There's like the right wing and the left wing one. One's Channing Tatum, the other one's like the guy who was in the Spartans. God, they were awful.
How about
like,
how about
I like the one with Jamie Foxx.
How about a Marvel? How about a Marvel movie?
How about a Marvel movie that I didn't like?
Because I'm a snob for not liking some or most of them.
You're a snob, period. You're an entertainment snob. But
are you saying you didn't like Guardians of the
I've long
Galaxy?
stuck to this, and you are.
I'm not.
You are. You're an elitist. You're an entertainment elitist. My music's better. My shows are better. My movies are better.
Come on, Brian. You like the Fantastic Four movies?
No, but they're not.
You bite your tongue.
Marvel,
you bite your tongue.
Marvel didn't do those.
Okay,
But
so
it's
Marvel.
based on Marvel. They had to get.
But that's not a Marvel.
So what
when
you're
he
saying is
says
it's not
Marvel
Disney.
movies,
Disney.
When he says Marvel movies, I think of Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Ant-Man, all those. I don't think of the X-Men and Spider-Man and
Okay, but see, because I just combine them all. If they're from the Marvel universe, they're Marvel.
Yeah.
But Eddie, so the Fantastic Four movies were Disney.
No, he was saying Marvel. Marvel didn't make them, and I was making sure to point out that
It's
when
Disney.
Marvel makes a movie now, what you're saying is Disney.
made it.
Okay, yeah.
So
that is what I actually mean. His nerd is bigger than mine. I will guarantee you.
all right,
I see your Schwartz is as big as mine.
Brian, we're gonna battle this out on the snob thing in a future episode, but we have to end this. And
Since you're a young man, it's the only huge bias besides your liberal one that you still hang on to, as far as I know.
demanding quality for my entertainment. You're right. I'm biased in that way. Eddie,
you see what I mean? Y'all heard it right here. That's some snob shit to say.
No, it is.
Yeah.
1 through 7.
He thumbed his nose when he said it. You couldn't see it. He did it.
Anyone who would argue,
I actually did thumb my nose.
I know.
anyone who would argue that it's not better than the prequels, opinions are subjective and all, but they're wrong.
Yeah.
So it's clearly better than the prequels.
How about the first three?
Mark hates all of the Star Wars movies.
No, I don't hate all of them.
Which one do you like?
Well, the first one. Okay, first off, I liked them all pretty much as a kid. Return of the Jedi, I was a little older by that time, and I really wasn't interested.
There's a big difference in who likes Empire versus who likes Jedi.
I didn't know I wasn't supposed to like Jedi.
Really,
I always liked
really, that's where I'm at.
You're not
now.
supposed to
Jump.
if you're a nerd.
Really, well, I just didn't like it because I was a teenager already. It was like fucking teddy bears, and I don't care.
Yeah, those Ewoks.
Now, you have to remember, I sat in
who can knock over a stormtrooper with a stick.
Let's go outside and smoke some weed.
Yeah.
I waited in line to see the re-releases.
Yeah.
I waited in line to see Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
And then Phantom Menace killed it, and I did not wait in line for the other two movies, and they're both garbage.
Yeah.
I would have been okay waiting in line for this one. I didn't have to for various reasons, but
how does this one measure up
this
to
is definitely better than the prequels. Like, there's no question of that.
4, 5, and 6.
I struggle because there's
It's in there somewhere in the middle.
It's in the same field,
Okay.
and I wouldn't
marinate?
argue with. Yeah, I just saw it less than a week ago. I have to let it marinate for a little bit.
How many times have you seen the other ones, right?
And I have to say,
are we going to say
ones.
the originals
People
or
get
the special
scared.
editions? Like, are we going to talk about A New Hope
people
where
get
fucking
scared
Han
though
shoots first
to say
or
that
what Dorito does?
people get scared to say that a new version of a movie is better than these classics
they
that
don't.
we love.
No, they don't.
And
They say it immediately.
Like I say,
They say it
Batman
all the time.
Batman Dark Knight is better than any other Batman movie.
Right, you like
ever,
garbage. We've
period.
established that. Those movies are terrible. Those movies are a defense of George Bush, and Batman is Batman for 3 weeks. Those movies are garbage.
The new Batman movie.
The new Batmans are terrible. If you
Dark
sit
Knight
down,
is a terrible movie.
the one with Joker is a defense of George Bush.
I don't care. I don't care about
Wait,
that.
you demanded quality from.
It is quality. The action is amazing. But anyway, and I would say the new Star Trek. I'd say the first new Star Trek movie.
First time Eddie lost me was right there. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm not sure what he's saying. It's like a different language. I don't know.
I keep saying JJ got his 2 practice
So
Star
the
Wars
Tim
in
Burton
movie.
Batman was better than Dark Knight. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, nipple.
Whoa,
suit.
that was Schumacher.
But wait a
Nipple
minute.
suit.
So and then
You're saying the first 3 were better than this new one, or this new one is in the realm of that?
It's
And
in the
maybe
realm,
better
so like,
than
I'm
some
not
of that.
sure. Yeah,
Somewhere
it
in
could
the
be,
mix.
but I'm actually not confident. I can't say like I could be like it's better than New Hope, but like I don't want to arrogantly.
But
say
just
that.
on
They're the
terms of
same.
like special effects, like that alone elevates it. You don't have to think like, well, what they were able to do. You just think about how it entertains you.
Well, but I also have to think about the fact that I saw the originals, the original versions, and then I saw those fucking remake ones that he made shittier. Every change he made when he remade them is shittier.
I know.
So like I have to compare them. Really, is so.
And I think the
It's in the same
the
field.
first new Star Trek movie is probably better than all of the other Star. I love First Contact, and I liked Star Trek 6. And I like
every argument you've ever made about how you demand quality for entertainment has just gone out the window.
No, that new Star Trek is it's fun. It's realistic. The special effects are awesome. They make
realistic.
It's more gritty in the sense of like a guy
who just you've been out of Starfleet Academy after getting booted up for cheating for a week. You are going to be captain of the flagship. That's totes legit.
It didn't make any sense. That's right.
Well, no,
they're just more appealing. That one, it's just the action is more fun than older movies.
I never claimed to have great taste in movies, and I'll tell you, like, just because a movie's awful, like, I look for bad movies.
I do. And if you're going to defend it on those grounds, that's different. I love Evil Dead. I'll watch the shit out of some Evil Dead.
Evil Dead's not a bad movie.
Sci-fi movies.
You're conflating campy or B or whatever.
Yeah,
it's
it's
not
satire.
a bad movie. It's not bad on any level.
I just watch all kinds of movies, man. I'm kind of, whatever it is. I'm fairly entertained. When people are trashing movies, usually. I only have a few movies I've ever had a complaint with. Sorry Ass Romeo and Juliet.
That was my point in asking you, were there any you didn't like? Because then it just seems like you don't have any
like
standards.
If you were asking me,
if it's just a movie, you're happy, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with you because of that. But then you don't get to call me a snob because you'll just watch any movie that's playing.
I am a snob. So like I am a snob. Like
I just want you to own it, man. It doesn't really bother me that you are. Just like I want you to know thyself. And
you know what though? When I'm not angry about something, people are like, really? Like the new Flash TV show. My brother was like, wait, you're not angry? Like my initial response to it was, it didn't make me angry. And my brother went, are you kidding me? It didn't make you angry. Like he wasn't like, "What? It's not."
That's my point, Brian. How can I be a snob when there's people like Eddie in the world?
Well, dude, there's different levels,
and Eddie's not even the worst. There's guys on the internet that are just
there's different levels. There's black belts, and then there's Hickson Gracie.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
I'm a black belt snob, but I'm not Hickson. Maybe I'm a brown belt snob.
Yeah, that's fair to say, dude.
All right.
I think there was a while when you really wanted your black belt. Yeah. Now you don't care if you get it as much.
That's
you
fair.
Still do if it comes to music, though. You're like, no, I'm looking for the choral belt.
It's got to be good. I have to love it.
So to go back to Star Wars, after the initial day, like pretty much predominantly in my feed at least, and stuff I would read on Rotten Tomatoes and whatever, it was positive. It said that this movie was really good, blah, blah, blah.
Not perfect, but very good.
I've had people message me and say that would have been critical about it and say it was they didn't want to give me any spoilers, but it was good. It was
good. But let me continue. After that, now, like a couple days later, now a lot of people, I guess, as more have seen it than on opening day, a lot of people are not fucking happy with it. And I'm talking about super nerds. Like maybe not super enough.
But they're the ones who are gonna be
the first fucking day
way
during
too
all
picky.
The crowds. But there's a guy that's fucking talking about how I can't believe how they treated the Force and made it seem like some superpower. And I'm like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like it doesn't go with the canon at all. And it's a good movie. It's entertaining, but it's not a Star Wars movie. It's a good Disney movie, but it's not a Star Wars movie.
See, I'll tell you already smacks of bullshit.
If I saw a little bit fucking wrinkly elf lift a fucking X-wing out of the mud,
is that how you just referred to Master Yoda
with telepathy? I would be like, that fucking guy has superpowers.
You know what?
Dude.
The little
wrinkly
elf. That's what I would think.
The
Force in the original trilogy was very similar to almost like Zen descriptions. Like it's like, yeah, he did amazing shit, but not easily. Like you had to struggle with it, and then like only a few times was there something where you're like,
he wanted to equate it to like the samurai mentality, like discipline and
then
focus.
Someone gave him a bucket load of money and everything he wanted to do, and he said it was these little tiny midichlorians. And he went to garbage. So,
all right.
But in the new movie, there are things that would make me mad, but I will say they're handled well enough that they don't, and that's part of it. Like a lot of times, if you're gonna make a change, a lot of times my thing is, does it make sense why you made that change? And if it doesn't, then you're an asshole. And then if
I just hope it's entertaining.
Another guy on my feed said that it was the second best of the series, but then he also said that the first best was Return of the Jedi.
See, I probably would have said that too until I found out that I'm not allowed
somebody
to
who
think
loved
that.
Jedi, somebody who like that's why I asked you when you said when you said you didn't really love all of them, and I said which one do you like the most?
More the flashy people.
If you're
like
an Empire fan, you will put this maybe at like the fourth, I would think. Because no one's going to like the prequels.
You want to know my theory on it? It's so simplistic. People who like the Jedi, it's the green lightsaber. That's what did it for them. I don't know why I think that, but that's how simple it is. 85%.
Is there a
Well,
blue
they line
lightsaber?
My thing is
Anakin's
that
lightsaber is blue.
Okay. So
But when
fast.
Luke builds his, it's green.
Green, so nice.
That's why people like Return of the Jedi.
and are the
I think
lightsabers in
Empire's-
this one are awesome, right? They're all like sparkly and
Well,
stuff.
this is the first time that they've done the lighting of the lightsabers in live, like as opposed to doing it in post.
So there's shadow, brightness reflects on
They
their
actually use
clothing and
lit-up
stuff.
sticks.
All right.
is there
Guys,
a
all right,
rainbow, is there a rainbow lightsaber?
No.
You would want that one.
Well, the
Oh,
Sith
shit.
use artificial
Fuck yeah,
crystals,
dude.
and the Jedi use naturally forming crystals, and they all have to use their
Eddie,
force.
stop talking. I want a black, a UV
Why
lightsaber.
is it got to be? Why is it got to be a black
I want a
lightsaber?
UV lightsaber. All right. Guys, join us next week for the Christmas episode. Greg Prill will be on,
Kwanzaa.
and we're going to talk about
Kwanzaa.
crazy supernatural psychic stuff.
And probably Star Wars because you'll have seen it by then.
Yeah. So thank you all for listening. Sorry it went too long.
We should do like a spoiler tone, and then there'll be like,
Yeah.
now we're
for
gonna talk
sure.
about Star Wars. And, all right, we're done.
So thanks everybody. We'll see you next Sunday.
Jar Jar Binks is getting Lorenz.